All right, everyone, welcome back to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner, and today I have a special guest named Nick Anderson. He's a white kid from Idaho, so welcome to the show, Nick.
What's going on, Tyler? Appreciate you for having me on, my man.
Of course, man. Thank you for coming on. I'll dive right into the first question. The first one is what's the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
So the best story from my life, I guess you could say when I was in college, and I was dating this girl at the time, and one night we were gonna go to a party, so bought a bottle for both of us. I was in a fraternity, so that sort of a lifestyle was pretty crazy. Long story short, she had one drink, I had the rest of the bottle, and we were on our way out, and I was walking out of the door, going down the staircase, and my goofy self tripped and fell down the entire staircase and landed headfirst at the bottom, knocked out cold, pool of my own blood. One of my buddies had to come and pick me up and dragged me pretty much into the car. And I was out cold, out unconscious. I came to in the ER with my girlfriend right there next to me. I was holding hands with her. And I was like, what happened? With a bag of ice on my face. And my lip was completely busted. My tooth was knocked back at a 45-degree angle. And I got in, he stitched up my lip, right? And got me in a state where I was just like, it pretty much fixed my tooth, right? That happened a few days later. But what happened was I was selling stuff, from, overseas. I call them bootleg Beats by Dre headphones and like snapback hats and jerseys and stuff. And I was at a point in my life where I was just lost. I was lost. Maybe you're feeling that right now if you're listening to this podcast where you're doing something right now that isn't your purpose. That's what it was like for me. I was living a lifestyle that I knew wasn't going to be long-term. I was doing things that I knew wasn't empowering people, and I needed to make a change. So I pretty much had a conversation with God, and I said, God, and I was like talking and making prayers and basically saying, like, I need something in my life that is legal, it's sustainable, it's long-term, it's my purpose, it's something that I know the reason why I'm here on earth, other than getting drunk every other night, going to parties, and selling bootleg Beats by Dre headphones. So I made that prayer to God, and immediately that's when network marketing came into my life. And one of my friends from the fraternity, he hit me up about it later. This was later in the summer when I came back home from school. And that's when my life just completely started to change and transform when I was 19 years old. So, that was about like 6 years ago. And that little situation caused me, to make the change.
Wow. And if you don't mind me asking, what was the network marketing company that catapulted you?
So it was called Vima. It was a health and nutrition company, and it was basically like all about healthy nutrition, which was part of my interest too. I was studying exercise science and health in school, and through exercise science and health, being wanting to be a personal trainer, it fit perfectly with my forte and the niche that I wanted to go into. Long story short, obviously, that was the first business, no longer with it, but I learned some great valuable lessons that are timeless and priceless that I took with me and applied into my current life right now and the businesses that I'm building right now.
Gotcha. And the next question I have is, what's the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
Man, I would just say, surround yourself with the people that you want to be like, not only from a financial perspective, but from a lifestyle perspective. Because so many people, they have mentors in their life, but their mentors, are lacking in some areas, and they're taking all the information that they share with each other and adopting that as, who they are, and kind of modeling after that. So it's like, surround yourself. You can have multiple mentors, especially in network marketing. Most people think that, their upline or the person in the business that is coaching them and teaching them knows all and has all the answers. But the reality is, like, when I was in my first business and I was asking advice from my upline, he didn't have all the answers. He didn't know everything. And he thought he did, at that time, because we were all young, like operating based on ego, which is edging God out. And, he's teaching me these things, which helped me out. I'm very grateful for those lessons, but at the same time, like, he wasn't truly refined in that aspect in different areas of life. So I have multiple mentors in my life that I learned from through, like, obviously books too, and audios, listening to on a daily basis, and then people in person that could teach me in different aspects of life, and modeling after their strengths and seeing their weaknesses and understanding that, I don't have to adopt those weaknesses and allow them to become my own.
And so this ties in with the next question, or it might be the same answer, but what's your best piece of like overall business advice? So not necessarily like industry specific.
So my best business advice would be never stop learning. It's the most simple thing ever, but so many people, they get to a point in life where they think they know it and they understand it all, and that cuts off any future learning. So the best teachers are the greatest students. So if you want to be able to be a master teacher, you have to be a master student. Always be attending events, seminars, reading, listening to audios, and always learning, because whenever you stop learning, you stop growing, And it's like Jim Rohn would always say, in life, you're either growing or you're dying. There's no such thing as staying the same. So I hope that you make a choice to always be growing. Otherwise, you're pretty much like screwed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, I'm still young, man, so I'm still learning. But I would just say, I would say be in the moment, understand that you grow through what you go through, and that your current situation is not your final destination. These little incremental points in your life are just lessons, all right, that you need to learn from an emotional perspective. And being able to appreciate those moments, both negative and positive, because there's no negative or positive, there just is, right? It's like, it's like we can get into a whole tangent about this stuff, man, about time and everything, how it's an illusion and all this stuff, like the Matrix and all that. But at the same time, like my younger self, I just say, have fun, enjoy the moment, surround yourself with good people, and just realize that, life is a journey. We're all along this crazy ride.
And in your opinion, what's the key to happiness?
Progress and good people, and just being in the now. If you're not progressing, you're not going to be happy. If you're stagnant, you're going to slowly but surely, depression will start sinking in. If you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to have a midlife crisis. I had a midlife crisis at 19 years old. And I started to realize that the current life that I was living was just this state that wasn't allowing me to step into my true potential, my purpose. And once I finally found my purpose, and I started progressing through that, it allowed me to feel like 1 year was an entire lifetime of lessons. And just realizing that like that progress is what made me happy. When I stopped progressing, I wasn't happy. So I had to do that, and living in the now too, just being in the present moment. It's so hard for people to do, because they're either living in the future, which is where anxiety resides, or they're living in the past, which is where depression lives. But in order to live in the now, right, that's why they call it a present, because it's a gift. So if you can figure out ways through like meditation to live in the now and surround yourself with good people and good energy, then allows you to feel like positive emotions the majority of the time.
And what's the best book you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from it?
I would say The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. And the best thing I learned from it was how powerful our subconscious mind is, and how we can heal our bodies, and we store past trauma. Every single memory. Think of our mind like a computer, Google, that is programmed, right, into our minds, everything that happens from our childhood, and every single traumatic event, is stored in our bodies. And those traumatic events happen through, our childhood to the point where we are today. Most of them we forget about, but they're stored in our mind. And you can heal your body, right? You can heal your life. You can fix everything through your subconscious mind, which is like an iceberg, right? Like 95% of the iceberg is below the water that you don't see, which is most of the memories in your life. Like throughout your whole life, like there's certain significant events that you never remember, but all these little events, like at kindergarten, what some girl said to you when you asked her out, right? Maybe she said, no, you're gross. And that you store that in your mind, right? So tapping into all these memories that are holding us back from achieving what we want, bringing them to the surface and relearning them in a different way.
And what's your favorite quote and why?
Oh man, so many quotes. I would say work harder on yourself than you do on your job to make an investment in your future. Because if you work hard on your job, you can make a living. But if you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, you can make a fortune. So I've kind of like adopted that as my personal philosophy. And that was from Jim Rohn. He's from Idaho as well. And basically just like learning on a consistent basis and working harder on myself, because most people, they let their schooling interfere with their education. And if you let your schooling interfere with your education, you stop learning from the point you graduate.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on. The last question I have for you is, where's the best place for people to find you online?
I would say YouTube. If you just type in my name, Nick Anderson, Instagram, Nick Anderson 208, or Facebook, you can look at my name as well. I'm on there. Those 3 platforms I'm using consistently. And, I love making videos. So if you guys love watching videos and learning, and you're dedicated to the process of just like becoming your best self, because you never become your best self. You're always in a state of becoming your best self. So, as I'm learning, as I'm growing, I'm just sharing my journey with you guys. And I'm not a guru, what I'm saying? Like Tony Robbins, I'm not your guru. I'm just sharing my experiences. And if you guys resonate with that and you vibe with that, that's awesome. If not, no big deal.
Awesome, Nick. Thank you so much again for coming on, man.
Yo, I appreciate you, Tyler, and look forward to hearing all the other audios you got, bro.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.